However, my call, so law is not just my profession, but my calling. And my calling is law, but the area that God gave me, a specific area, is planning. And the time that he gave it to me, it became planning is power. So when it came to me as planning is power, I was like, well, what does that mean? And that's when I realized, obviously I took the courses in law school and you learn about it, but it connected to me in a way after I'd already started practicing. And I started to recognize that there were different groups. So there were groups of people that were working because they just wanted to add things to their resume. Basically, their future was kind of set up for them. And some of the things that they had access to was like, okay, well, how do you get that? Where do you find this? Where do you find that? And this is conversations that I hear other young attorneys like me are talking about. And then, so when God took me out of prosecution and to private practice, when he said there is power in planning, that's when I recognized and I connected to the fact, even when I was in law school, I enjoyed a state planning class. Yes. And understanding that and the fact that, and something came to me, someone probably said it before, but I didn't hear it before. It came to me that estate planning is the one thing that gives you the power to speak in life and in death.
Wow.
Not much things give you that ability.
Yes.
So, you know that we're here and the topic of today is legalizing your legacy. Legalizing your legacy through planning. Now, one thing that we hear all the time is legacy. Legacy, what's your legacy? You know, think about your legacy, all of those things. And when we say legacy, it's almost become a word that you say, whether you know the meaning or not, whether you mean the same thing as the person next to you. But I just wanted to kind of go back to the basics. So when we say legacy, what are we talking about? What did it mean the first time it came out, that word was used? And I went to the dictionary and I looked at some definitions of the word legacy. A legacy, it is a noun, and it says it's an amount of money or property left to someone in a will or something similar. Also, something descendable, meaning you pass it on.
Yes.
Something received from the past. Anything handed down from a predecessor. What are some of the synonyms? Words that are like legacy: inheritance, gift, birthright, endowment.
Yes.
Those are some of the things that you think about when you say legacy. Now, when we start talking about legacy and then I use those type of words, some people may feel like, oh, this is not for me. It's somebody else. It has nothing to do with me. So then the question comes up, who should be planning their legacy?
Wow.
And I say everyone.
Yes.
Everyone should be planning your legacy. Legacy planning is not for this group versus that group. It's for everybody, especially for us that have the benefit of living in a capitalistic society. There's benefits to it, there's negatives to it, but you have that benefit. It is a big deal. So when we say everyone, who does that include? From those that are working for someone else, you're working a 9-to-5 job, government job, small job, doesn't matter what it is. You are working and you're getting paid for the work that you're doing. You may own a business.
Yes.
You may not even be working owning a business. You may be someone that have a spouse or family and you take care of the home, or you do more philanthropic things. You still, whether, doesn't matter, because you're surviving somehow, right?
Yeah.
You have something that you call your own. Anybody that has anything that belongs to you, and you could say that it is yours, you then should be thinking about your legacy. So now that I say anyone that have anything, what is it that I have is what you may be asking yourself, or that's what you should be asking. What is it that I have that can go towards my legacy? So there are systems in place that we know of. We've heard of them, the words thrown around, that assist us in creating our legacy. But you feel as if, well, I go paycheck to paycheck. I don't have a savings account. There's not much that I can even give to someone right now if someone was in need. But that's why you hear the word that I keep on repeating, and it's a part of this series, is planning. Yes. You may not have it today, but if you know in your mind, this is what I intend to do, this is where I want to go, this is what I want to leave, then we start today. There's no day like today to start doing something that makes you better, something that gives you what you want to do. The goal, set a goal today. Doesn't matter if you look like the goal, you can see the goal, you understand the goal. You set it today and you get there. So you may have more bills than money, so it's hard to think about legacy. But you have a paycheck. Mm-hmm. You have things. So what are some things? I'm just going to throw out examples. You guys can add on some other examples to help people out. But you have jewelry, shoes. Some people have shoe collections where all of their money goes into the shoes. You have furniture. You have clothing. You have your children. Yes. Right? That's one of our biggest investments, right? Yeah. We have children. You have a business. All of these things are what we would call your assets. These are things that you have that can later be passed down. So, okay, now you have these things. So what do I do? What is it? What is planning all about? So we'll start with the personal and then we'll go to business. And I know we have our small businesses, our small business owners watching, but for small business owners, I'm going to tell you, it is imperative. So it may be a question mark for everybody else. But if you own a business, whether it's small, large, medium, it doesn't matter, you have to have an estate plan. That is a big deal. But we're going to go to the personal first. We're going to go to the personal first. All right? All right. So the question that you ask first is, what happens when you die? A lot of people don't want to address that. A lot of people feel like, I'm too young. I'm healthy. I work out. I'm in the gym every day. I eat my vegetables. No. What happens when you die? If you have children, there's 4 questions that I ask with your children. Who, what, where, and how? Who's going to take care of those children? What are they going to take care of your children with? So what are you leaving? Are you expecting that individual is going to carry the full burden? Where are they going to be with your children? Because think about it. Because right now, the best person suited to take care of your child may not be in the best position. Wow. So if that person is not in the best position and you haven't left anything for that individual, then that's a problem. So then we go to how. How are you going to set it up so that person knows what you desire for your child? Yes, you understand that someone's household, they're going to treat everyone the same. They have their children, your children. So if they go to church, most likely your child's going to go to church. Yes. They don't go to church, and you do. You may kind of, want to put it in there. If there's an aunt or somebody that goes to church, you can let them go with the person. But how are they going to know what you desire for that child? Wow. So the things that we think about, or the things that can come into play when we think about that, is money. How much money are you leaving? Do you have any insurance plans that will cover you, cover your children? Because you may not, because I say in death, but what if you become incapacitated? Meaning you're still alive, but you can't do much. What happens then? And then when you're talking about having things, if your house is your homestead, and do you want it to be sold? If the person isn't in a good position, do you want to set it up so that person can live in your house with your child? These are things we have to think about because it is your everyday. We're driving in these streets, we're at work, and we see on the news, we see everywhere that people are doing things in random places now. So it's not just in specific areas where they're doing this. It's not in combat, but in our schools, at our jobs. The last year, the lady was driving down Miami Gardens from work. It was 6 p.m. and someone she was shot driving home in her car, minding her own business. I don't wish that on anybody, but I'm saying, what happens if that is your situation? That was mine. These things happen. So now we talk about the things that you have. I had mentioned a few things, but the things that you have. Okay, so do you want them to sell it after you die? Do you want to donate it to a general organization? Or do you want to give a specific thing to somebody? I have a lot of nieces and nephews. There may be specific things I want to leave to a niece. I want to leave to them together as a whole. But you have to think about these things. Guess what? Because the thing that I say, there's power in planning. If you don't speak, somebody's going to speak for you.
Come on,
it's better that it's you.
Oh, say that again, Apostle.
If you don't speak, somebody's going to speak.
Wow.
And it's better that it's you because you know what you want to do with your resources. So now for those of us that have businesses, what are some of the questions when it comes down to planning? As you can see, I'm doing general because this is a 3-part series. So I'm giving us some general information before we go into the real meat and potatoes of these areas. And you can actually get your specific tools and things that maybe you can do on your own or things that you would need us at the SG Law Firm to do for you or whatever it is. But it's good to know, all right, what should I be thinking about? So by the time we get to week 2, which is next week, Wednesday at 7 p.m., once we get here, you may have some questions, and if you send your questions, we'll address them in the beginning before we even go into it, okay? All right, so now for our small businesses, the question that you ask when you start a business, but what you should ask when you're starting a business is, do I want this business for just my lifetime, or do I want it to outlive me? Because there's a big difference in the way that you're going to go about securing and planning for that business. If it's just a lifetime business or it is something that goes beyond you. You want to leave your business as a legacy for your future generations or someone else. Are you at some point wanting to sell it? Or do you want to keep it? Because now, guess what? Your thoughts when it comes to the business is value. What value can someone on the outside see for your business? All of this comes in with planning. All of this has to do with legacy. All right? Are you building up your business so that it can remain a closely held, meaning it doesn't matter if it's millions of dollars, but you want it to stay a private company? Or do you want to see yourself in New York ringing the bell one time on Wall Street because you want it to go public? These are great things to think about. I don't want anyone, even if you're a small business owner, to feel like, no, that's not me. Yes, that's you. It's you. You can, if you always imagined it, but you kind of shoot it away like, no. That's why we're here. That's why we're talking about this. Because all of the planning gets you to that place where you are ringing the bell. So if you do want to be a public company, so you're going on Wall Street, then guess what? Now we got to think about investors. What type of investors? How do I target those investors? These are all of the things that you're thinking about, even as a small business. Why? Because your mind is not small. You're not going to keep it in this little box and don't allow it to grow. Don't allow it to be great. And the way that these things are going to come to pass when you've made these decisions is through your governing documents. Depends on how your business is. That's a document that the same way how we have a constitution for the United States. Well, I call your business documents your constitution for your business. We all need a constitution for our business, right? For us to deal with each other. Well, if your business is not just going to be you and you're going to start having these employees and you're going to have the branches and the other locations, national, international, yeah, you need a constitution so people can know how to deal with each other. And the why of your business never fails. It'll always be remembered, right? All right, and for both of these, there's a lot more that could go into business, but for both of these things, one of the things that you could do right now, today, is stop unnecessary spending. We do it in business, and we definitely do it in our personal lives, right? So that's just one little thing you could think about. What don't I need right now that I'm spending money on? Because now I'm thinking about my legacy. I'm thinking about planning. What can I remove? What can I let go of? All of the extra stuff. Maybe it's just a social media. Maybe it's advertising that's not really bringing you in much things. So you have to retarget, refocus, regroup. What are those things that we can save a little bit more on? Because the more that you bring in, the more you're setting aside, like we said, for the definition of legacy, for that inheritance, for that gift. Because you're not just thinking about yourself. You're not just thinking about your children, your family, but what about that cause that you feel so passionate about?
Come on.
You know, there's those that, I use Black Lives Matter because that's just what's going on right now. And do you want to see it go on? Do you want to see them achieve whatever their purpose is? Then you may want to leave a donation to them, but we got to do it the right way. And as we come back in the next 2 weeks, you'll know how to do that the right way, right? So it benefits everybody. So the next thing is the systems and the laws. Let me tell you, I know a lot of us say we don't like IRS. We don't like the government, Uncle Sam this and Uncle Sam that. But listen, the systems and the laws that are in place in our society, it benefits us more than we know. We just don't know how to use it, but it is there. Because remember, we have things where you've heard of 501c3, right? That's the federal version. And for Florida, they have the tax law as well, where you don't get charged taxes and it's through a DR5, right? So you have that. What is the benefit of the government saying that they don't want you, you're not going to be taxed on money that you bring in? The benefit of that is you're helping other businesses. You're helping organizations that are taking the time to just give their time. So their focus is not on the money, their focus is on the people. So the more we have organizations focusing on people, the less we have to spend our tax dollars on focusing on people. Yes. So that's why these things are in place. But even as a for-profit business owner, you should always consider having some foundational nonprofit as a part, because there is something inside you. We all have it in us where we want to give, where we want to do. And it may be you creating something on the side that's able to do that, but it will also be able to benefit you in the giving and the laws that they have.
Yes.
So our tax laws, I'm telling you, are the biggest that provide the most for us to be able to create our legacies, to have something to give back. They have gifts and transfers. Let me tell you, it is robust, the way that you can transfer money without getting taxed. It's a big deal. And these are the things that I'm telling you, I started to hear about, and I'm recognizing, like, oh my goodness. Because one thing I could never understand, and you all may have the same question, how are these individuals that are multi-millionaires, hundreds of millions, and you hear they hardly pay taxes.
Yeah.
And you hear that if they get sued or something, oh, they don't have no money to pay when they get sued. Really? But you're not living in the poorhouse. Like, you're not here coming for any food stamp or nothing. Like, no, you're not coming for those things, right? So how are you able to do that? And I'm telling you, it is through the gifts and transfer. It is the tax law. That is the bread and butter. For everybody out here that you see have those millions for real, they not faking for social media. They really have their money. And we're just trying to figure out, like, we want to get there, we want to get there. There's a way to get there legally,
yes.
Right? We want to always keep it legal. And there's transfers that you do. If you're transferring to your spouse, if you're doing from retirement to retirement account, from you to a nonprofit, like-kind exchanges. For those that's into investment and real estate and homes, you do like-kind exchanges with like-kind. So for this house, if it's going to be an investment home for a business and I want to get another one, guess what? You're able to transfer that without paying any taxes for another property. It's a lot. It's a lot, right? I can't give you guys everything. We just don't have enough time or energy for that tonight. But it's so much.
Yes.
But if you're not thinking about it, you won't see it. Because what you're looking for, you find. We know that. It's not a question. But I want to drop these on day one so you guys can know what you should be looking for. By the time we get back, some of you should have already done your research. Look a little bit into it so you can say, hey, I heard about this. I have no problem addressing care, obviously. But let's address some things so that we can educate each other. We can empower each other. And that's what I'm here for. Because I said it 4 years ago. God, if you want me to create this firm, let it be your firm, but equip me so I can empower my community.
Yes.
It doesn't make sense for me to be around it, for me to do it, but I can't do it for others that just don't know. Because I know a lot of you will do it. A lot of you will put it into practice, but you just didn't know it was out there.
Yes.
All right, so let's go to some legal methods and documents, right? So we say power and planning. How do you guys do it? All right, so you've heard of wills. A lot of people, I'm realizing, as they come in, not so much people hear about trust. They don't really know how trust works, but they know about wills. There's a lot of benefits to both. They have their pros and their cons, each one. But since you all have heard about it, it's probably something a little bit more at home with you. Let me just talk about some of the benefits of having, an estate plan. So whether it's a will or a trust. So one of the things are you provide for your family, whether you in death or if you're incapacitated. You keep your children out of Child Protective Services hands.
Oh.
Because like I said, if you're not planning for who's going to be their guardian, someone's going to make that decision. But if the person doesn't even know, because what if the person, because we know we have family that's here with us, there's family in other states, and what if the family in the other state, because you guys don't speak that much, they don't know that you would want them to take the child. They don't even know that there's an issue with the child. So by the time they come, they're fighting for something they didn't have to fight for. Yes. If we had already made the decision.
Jesus.
So you minimize your expenses when you take that time to plan prior to, right? Because now then we know, okay, what's the difference between wills and trusts? Well, one of the biggest difference is cost up front versus cost later, right? So a will is simpler. A will, it's inexpensive to create, right? You don't have to retitle assets, which is and those that I've made trusts for, they know that you got to change the name of this, put the bank account, this name, that's fine. But the afterwards, first of all, I know in the state of Florida and a few other states, you can't even probate your case without an attorney. So that's just on top, you got attorney's fees. And that's coming from the estate. You have your attorney's fees. You have your business out there because it becomes public information. Once you do a probate, and you have to probate a will. There's really no other way. You have to probate a will. So you got to go to court. You have to pay that money. You have a filing fee. You have attorney's fees. You have other professionals because you got to bring in tax. It depends on how big the estate is. So you need someone to do an appraisal of a home if a home isn't a part of the estate. It's just so many fees. A trust, on the other hand, is more expensive in the beginning, but in the end, it's private. You get to dictate how everything's going to go. You can give the money slow. You can give it fast. You can give big things to this person. You can keep it. And you pay a little in the beginning, and you save so much more. All of that money stays for those that it needs to go to. So whether it's family, charities, whatever you have, it's definitely, I recommend it for those, especially if you have a lot of things. You don't want to divert your money to that, because that means it's going to be a longer, harder battle, depending on how big your family is. If you have one child, probably okay. But if you have more than one child and you got a sister and a cousin that you know going to fight for your stuff, trust is the better route. Okay? All right. So let's go to some more benefits. Let's go to some more benefits of our planning. So you avoid delays and financial strains, right? Because if you go through and you don't plan at all, now they have to wait to figure out what's going to happen. You have it go to probate. If there's no will, oh, forget it, because now they have to dictate everything. A judge is, well, the people are arguing like, no, I think she wanted this. No, I think she wanted that. And you rolling over in your grave like, seriously, how y'all don't know me? But no, they don't know you because you didn't put it there. You talk about everything else in life, but you never talk about end of life. You never talk about when you're incapacitated. We don't have those conversations. I know that me and my family don't have those conversations. So if you do that, that means that you probably already have an estate plan if you talk about those things. But a lot of us, we avoid those things. So you save your family from difficult decisions, because now they have to make decisions about you medically if you are incapacitated. But when you create a estate plan, it always includes medical directives. So we know what you want to do. Do you want them to keep you on life-sustaining measures? Do you want them to just let it go? Do you want 3 doctors to approve? Do you want 2 doctors to approve it before? It's a lot that goes into it in the beginning, but trust me, it is worth it. It is worth it. It reduces taxes. Remember, we were talking about the tax law. We're going to get back to that. In week 2 and 3, we're going to talk about how the tax law is your best friend, right? If we use it the right way. We use it for us and don't let it work against us. Just like I had mentioned before, if you're incapacitated, you plan for those things. You can support your favorite cause. I had mentioned that already. And you make sure that your business runs smoothly based on how you want that business to go. Even if you want it to wind down, how do you want it to wind down? Who's getting what? Or, how are they selling these things? Because if someone were to leave, if you had, Coca-Cola or something, would you know where to sell the parts to with Coca-Cola? But what if I've already done that research? What if I already have in my estate plan, because you always have documents attached to it. What if I already have on there, these are the companies that buy parts from my company. This is the place where you can go to, and you just have that information there. Guess what? Now, whether they go with those companies or not, now they know, oh, there's somewhere I can look. This is how I look for it. So when I say planning is power, it really is, because it takes away all of the guesswork. It takes away. People are already going to be in a very difficult place when you are gone or when you can't speak for yourself anymore. We need to make it better. We need to make it easier. So those are the general things that we are going to cover. Wow. I did kind of like an overview. I did an overview, but to summarize, so we're talking about legacy. When we talk about legacy, we're not talking just generic. We're talking about what is it that you are creating today for you to pass down to your future generations. What are you going to pass down to that charity that you love so much? For those of you who love children, St. Jude's may be the place that you love because they bring the family on. They do so many things. But you love them. You have those assets there, but you didn't designate that. So no one outside of you was going to send that money to St. Jude's, right? Okay. So whether it's personal, whether it's business, whether you are working for the government, you're working at a small business, it doesn't matter. You should be planning your legacy today. Not tomorrow, not when you turn 55, you turn 65. And if you are 65 and 55, yes, plan today. Yes. Everybody needs to be planning. And while we're planning, let our children know what we're doing so that they can understand, oh, okay, this is what people do. Guess what? You put them ahead of the game. Yeah. They're ahead of the game. You're getting it now, but they'll get it right in their little tender ages, and they understand what's going on. Also, we know that we have the tax laws. We know that we plan with our state with the wills, trusts. There's so many types of trusts, you won't even believe it. Yeah. Well, one I'd like to highlight because we did do it, is a special needs trust. Yeah. Some people have children, or they themselves, they're disabled, but they're functional, right? So that person may be in a position where they can make some money on their own, but if you leave over $2,000 to an individual who is receiving Medicare and other government benefits, they will cut off that benefit. And can you imagine if you are not there anymore and that individual is cut off, and you know that it takes way more money than what you're going to leave to give them a comfortable life? So special needs trust changes the game, and that's because, trust me, the government is really happy to look and find out things like, oh, okay, you did this, not a problem, and you see the benefits stop, but you know you can't pay for that out of pocket or with your retirement, whatever you have. You can't really do that. So that's an example of something that is real for a lot of us. For a lot of us, where our children, they're functional, but we know what happens if I'm gone. And even with them, doesn't matter if they're 20 and 30, you know that they won't be able to really be on their own. What's going to happen with them? Who's the person you're going to trust to take care of that child? It's a big deal. Let's think about it today. Let's not wait till tomorrow. I don't know if there were any questions.
Girl, there's so many comments, but I just want to say, can I see it? Hey,
come on, let's move.
That was so powerful, and if you guys have any questions, you can post them here, and I'm watching to make sure I relay them to you. But I saw it both ways, and I think it's one of the things that when we got connected, it resonated with me so much. Your passion for estate planning, because when my mom passed away when we were 16, I was 16 years old, no type of estate plan in place. We had a home that was taken from us. We just so happened the probate process went through, and we just so happened to stumble upon some money that came from something that she was going through with a lawsuit or whatever. And she was married at the time, Jadinah, and half of that money, now there's 3 of us, her children, that if this is all she had, I know she would have wanted it to go to us as minors, but because there was no estate plan in place, half of it went to an estranged man that she was married to. They weren't even halfway together, okay? And then the 3 of us had to split the second half. It was nothing. It was petty.
And that's something it brings to mind, which we can address a little bit more in the future. But for those of you, and I know that, life happens. And we get married and have our children with our first marriage, or we have children and we're not married, and then we get married. Now, a lot of people, you hear prenup, which is a part of planning as well.
Planning
You
is
hear
planning.
prenup and you feel like, oh, I'm just planning for us to divorce. No, 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 no. Especially if you have children already. A prenup is a powerful tool, especially if you're in conversation with the person and you talk about what you want to do for your children. The person's on board. And if you told them and you talked about it, they would have known that, hey, what do I do to make sure your children get that? Because the law gives it to them. Like automatically your spouse gets it. And if it's not, if it's not their children, they split it 50-50.
Yes, and that's
if it's not children of that person. But what could have happened if she made it clear in the beginning, because the person, if they're getting the money, they're not going to say nothing, right?
No, they
but if
nothing.
she made it clear in the beginning, hey, you know, I have these children. I'm responsible for taking care of these children. And I know we're getting married. We're going to be together until death do us part. But I want you to sign this prenup stating that you do not want to take A, B, and C away from my children. So they're basically, forfeiting rights that they have so that your decision, your plans can take place. So that's something where a prenup is not a bad thing if you're using it for the right reasons. And protecting children you already have is one of the greatest reasons that you can think of.
Absolutely. And Chris and I, everyone knows we're a blended family, and we took the time to do estate planning that will make it very clear how and what we would want for our kids. Absolutely making sure that his wishes for